Welcome to the Montgomery County Board of Education Candidates Forum. I'm Kim Jones, Executive Director of the Montgomery County Black Collective, and we're proud to sponsor this event tonight. I want to thank the program hosts and their representatives. The Potomac Valley Alumnae Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, represented by Annie Foster Ahmed, Chair of the Social Action Committee. The Montgomery County Alumnae Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, represented by Pamela Luckett, Chair of the Social Action Committee, and the Black and Brown Coalition for Educational Equity and Excellence, represented by Wylea Chase. Thank you to Montgomery Community Media for providing the platform for the program, and a special thanks to all the candidates joining us tonight. This program is being recorded on Zoom and will not be edited before availability for viewing. It will be on all of the hosts' websites once we get the recording. There's no chat function available for viewers, and viewers can turn off your cameras because you will not be shown on screen. I'll remind viewers to visit 777vote.org to register to vote, and for any background information on the candidates, you can visit vote411.org/ballot or elections.maryland.gov. Before I begin, I'll review our ground rules. The program is a nonpartisan forum, and questions have been selected from those submitted when audience participants registered. The moderators will introduce the candidates in alphabetical order and give each one 1 minute for their opening statement. Candidates will have 45 seconds to respond to each question. There are no rebuttals. However, the moderators may determine that some clarification is needed and may ask for follow-up if they choose to. And candidates will have 1 minute for a closing statement. Our moderators tonight are Ms. Annie Foster Ahmed, Chair of the Social Action Committee, Potomac Valley Alumnae Chapter, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, and Ms. Wylea Chase, Director of Operations and Community Engagement, the Black and Brown Coalition for Educational Equity and Excellence. And now I'll turn control to the moderators.
Thank you, Kim. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I won't repeat any of the things that Kim said. She did a great job. However, we will introduce our candidates. We welcome Ms. Brenda Diaz, Ms. Shebra Evans, Ms. Lynne Harris, Mr. Sharif Hidayat, and Ms. Melissa Kim. You're muted, Annie.
Of course, haven't learned yet. Thank you, Wylea. We also have Fitzgerald Mofor, Rita Montoya, Ricky Moy, Laura Stewart, and Natalie Zimmerman. You will each have 1 minute now to introduce yourself and give opening remarks. We'll start with Brenda Diaz and go in the order that you were introduced.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. Just a bit about myself before I start talking about why I'm running. So I've been in education now for over 20 years. I'm still teaching. I teach at an online academy, high school social studies and middle school social studies, and I have my own farm and forest program for elementary school children here in Montgomery County. Yeah, so this 20-year span of education career, I've taught pre-K all the way to AP, government. I was an administrator at some point. I served for the union for 6 years, the teachers union. So I have vast experience in education. I have the keen insight to ask the necessary questions that we are currently facing right now. Why I'm running, I want to prioritize academic excellence. I want to prioritize safety. I want to bring back diligent oversight of resource allocation. Our budget is way too corrupted up in central office, and we need to take a look at that. I want to encourage parental involvement, and I want to boost teacher morale. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Diaz. Ms. Evans?
Thank you. I am Shebra Evans, and I first want to start off by thanking the sponsors for hosting today's event. I am running for the District 4 seat on the Montgomery County Board of Education, and I also currently serve as a board member. I have been very fortunate and honored to do this work for the past 8 years and asking for your support to do it for another 4 years. My husband and I moved to Montgomery County over 23 years ago, specifically for the public school system. This is a quality public school system, and we've had 2 children in this school system, one a graduate, currently in college, and one attending John F. Kennedy High School. I have used my lens as a parent and as a former PTA leader at the local and county level to help inform me as I make decisions on the board. What I do know about Montgomery County is that we don't have to be sick to get better, and we are continuously improving. I want to help to continue to make those improvements, particularly around educational equity.
Thank you, Ms. Evans.
Thank you.
Ms. Harris?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lynne Harris. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm serving and running as an at-large member of the board because I believe deeply in the positive power of public education as a public good. And to that work, I bring 15 years of education advocacy in this county that started when my son started kindergarten in 2008. I've served as a local and county-wide PTA leader, as an advocate with students and families and staff all across the county. And I have served for the past 3 years in roles including chairing the board's fiscal management committee. I know that amazing things are happening in our public schools, and there are also things that need to be fixed. And we need to make sure that we are fixing the things that are broken, but we do not forget to celebrate the good things that are happening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hidayat?
Thank you. My name is Sharif Hidayat. I'm a father of 2 children that attend Montgomery County Public Schools. They're currently enrolled in elementary school in Laytonsville, Maryland. I serve my connection to the school system. I've been a PTA member. I've been a delegate for with the MCC PTA. My career also connected me. My career as a police officer for over 20 years connected me to the school system, where I worked hand in hand with the school resource officers through the state's attorney's truancy prevention program. Truancy is a big situation that's happening right now in Montgomery County schools. And I want to bring those talents that I learned while working with those kids to ensure that they are actually in school so they can actually get a quality education. I look forward to answering your questions tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Kim?
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Kim. It's Melissa from Montgomery.com. Thanks, everyone, for hosting this opportunity and inviting us to be here. My husband and I also moved to Montgomery County about 20 years ago for one reason. We were told that MCPS was the best in the region, a school district with high expectations and wonderful outcomes. And except for the wonderful teachers we've met along the way, the overall experience has been mediocre. As an example that I've been sharing a lot lately is that in 5th grade, my child wrote just one 3-paragraph essay for the entire year. And that's a county standard for what 5th grade writing should be. And that standard is far, far too low. And I have many other examples like that. And I know many other parents do as well. I believe that people rise to the level of expectations, and MCPS expectations for what is possible is a pattern that is too low. Our children spend the majority of their waking hours at school, and I'm motivated to strengthen their school experience now. I've been leading change successfully as an educator for 25 years as an elementary school teacher, middle school principal, chief academic officer for a district, as well as deputy chancellor running DC Public Schools.
Thank you, Ms. Kim.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
Mr. Mofor.
Greetings. I'm Fitzgerald Mofor, a proud Montgomery County native. My family immigrated from Cameroon to Silver Spring, Maryland, where I attended primary and secondary schools at Montgomery County Public Schools. After graduation, I headed to Alabama, where I worked as a paraeducator in public high schools. It was there that I gained a deep appreciation for the transformative power of education and its role in tackling poverty and economic disenfranchisement. I returned to Maryland to pursue a master's degree in law, and since then, I've been working tirelessly to serve my community. I taught at a Montessori school, worked in electoral politics, and also served as a liaison in the Maryland General Assembly. As a grandson of a Cameroonian politician, I feel that it's an obligation of mine to continue my family's legacy and be a beacon of hope for students from historically marginalized communities. That's why I'm running for MCPS BOE at-large position to champion expanding career and technical education, ensuring wage parity for paraeducators, implementing personalized learning programs, improving our safety measures, and establishing an oversight committee. Thank you guys so much
Thank
for
you.
the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Montoya?
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for having me. My name is Rita Montoya. I'm a mom of 2 elementary school kids, a PTA president, a former juvenile public defender, and a candidate for Board of Education at large. My own educational journey started off in Head Start preschool, so I know that having a strong foundation is what we need for all of our kids. From there, I transferred to community college and then to a 4-year, and ultimately went and graduated from law school. As a former juvenile public defender, I stood up every day on behalf of our kids, most of whom were Black and brown, fighting for their rights and making sure that the court system, the schools, and sometimes even their own families and communities and neighbors saw them as the whole person and treated the whole person. If elected, I'll work hard to make sure that students and staff are free from physical harm and hate bias, because we know that kids need to feel safe in order to learn. I'll also work with my colleagues to rebuild public trust and work with MCPS to increase academic rigor and provide students with tailored programs that can help serve all student needs and learning styles. We know that closing the achievement gap doesn't mean lowering standards. It means providing those who don't have what they need with what they need to achieve.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
Ms.
Montoya.
Thank you.
Mr. Moy?
Good evening. My name is Rick Moy, and I thank the host for inviting me to share my thoughts for Board of Education District 2. We have a tremendously important decision to make, who we choose to lead the next Board of Education. I propose a path of hope, reigniting a love for school. It starts with policies that pass the common sense test. The school board needs to meet in your area to hear from you, the parents. We need to focus the growing operating budget on in-class programs and after-school programs that benefit our kids. I would like to walk into a safe, drug-free school and watch a talent show in the auditorium or watch a game in the fields. This is your taxpayer dollars. Are you happy how it's currently spent? I urge you to vote for Rick Moy. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Moy. Ms. Stewart?
Hello, my name is Laura Stewart, and I'm running for the Board of Education for District 4. I've been a Montgomery County resident for 27 years, and my 2 children are recent MCPS graduates. For over a decade, I've been advocating for the Down County Consortium, the county, and the state in Rockville, Annapolis, and Capitol Hill as a PTA leader. Unfortunately, our school system has had too many distractions from the mission of serving the children of Montgomery County. Over 60 MCPS administrators have left over a 2-year period, and there have been multiple lawsuits. We're still behind reading and math proficiency, and the opportunity gap is shockingly large. But our kids still do great things every day. We just need to do more to support them. We need to offer equitable opportunities in all zip codes. This is what I have advocated for almost every day. And I want to bring my passion for helping kids and families to the Board of Education. So please check me out, laurastewart.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least, Ms. Zimmerman.
Thank you so much. Good evening, and thank you to our hosts, and thank you to everyone for being here. I'm currently running for Board of Education District 2 because I am a current classroom teacher. I teach at Wheaton Woods Elementary School. I currently teach 2nd grade, and it is an absolute joy. If you've never spent your whole day with a room full of 7-year-olds, I recommend it. I teach at a Title I community school, and I have seen firsthand every day how the resources that we're spending are not trickling all the way down to our students, especially our most vulnerable students. I believe that public education is the greatest act of optimism into our future, and it's the greatest investment that we can give to our children. We need people on the Board of Education who have actually been in a classroom and who know what's happening. We need someone who has these current connections to our students, connections to educators, and that can bring those connections to the board. And I believe that I can be that champion for our students and educators.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
everyone.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Annie. Thank you, everyone, for your introductions. We're now going to move on to the questions. Want to just remind you all that you will each have 45 seconds, very different from 1 minute, I know, but you'll each have 45 seconds to answer each question, and we will go in alphabetical order. And we will call on you to answer those questions. So the first question is around teen mental health. As a board member, how will you hold MCPS accountable for implementing the measures, both preventative and responsive, that are needed to help teens cope with mental health issues? Ms. Diaz?
So last night at the Poolsville forum, a middle school student approached me asking me basically the same question about how I plan to approach mental health. So it's something that's on everyone's mind. The way I would approach it, first and foremost, I want to take a look at the Student Code of Conduct and implement a ban on phones during the school day. There was a study that was just recently released that showed how use of phones during a school day increases bullying and all sorts of other issues. But when you remove the phones from their daily access, it improves their mental health situation. So we need to look at the phones and how they're used. And then also I want to look at cross-age tutoring and providing lots of after school and in-school programs such as
Thank you, Ms. Diaz.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, thank you. It's tough.
Fine.
Sorry. Ms. Evans, same question.
Sure, that priority looks like putting it in the budget. I have been able to support additional social workers, school psychologists, and more counselors. It also looks like having a conversation with our families around the supports that we're offering, to have a two-way conversation of additional things that they would like to see happen, but also to share with them the work that's being done. I've stated this at several forums. Our social workers were just recently awarded the highest award at the national level because of their ability to be able to provide supports to our students. Last year, over 4,700 students were able to access supports, and so far this year, 1,700. So just continuing to talk to our families and our students, most importantly, about what they need and continuing to provide that support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Ms. Harris.
Yeah, MCPS's complement of members of our own staff that are mental wellness professionals has grown dramatically over the past 4 years. Similarly, our partnership with external agencies that also provide wellness supports has dramatically improved, but we need to tighten up those webs of services to make sure that every school is fully enmeshed in a web, and that the students and families in that school community know about the available services and how they can access them. I think we also have to continue to prioritize putting school-based wellness centers in every high school. And until we get there, maintaining our partnership with our county and private partners to provide wellness spaces and services in every school. And
thank you, Ms. Harris.
Thank you. Mr. Hidayat?
Frederick Douglass once said, "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." My focus is going to be focusing on the children, so we don't get to the point where the mental illness metastasize into a problem where we're seeing what right now in the school system, where people are showing up to schools with knives and guns and bullying other kids. The cell phone issue, I was the first candidate to actually say that in public, that we need to put a ban on cell phone usage during academic instruction. It's not a complete ban, but definitely when teachers are teaching, they cannot learn if they're on their phone. So we really need to approach from a policy perspective on reforming that policy and enforcing that policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kim.
Student wellness is our #1 most important focus. If our kids are not well, they're not going to learn, they're not going to grow, and certainly they're not going to become the people that they need to be for the world. And I think we got to resource it and resource it with money in the budget, but then also with time, training for teachers, but also resourcing it with money that goes directly to kids so that more programs to enrich them, engage them, have created a deeper sense of belonging and engage and trust our kids to have solutions and listening to their voice and make sure that their ideas are integrated. One of the most impactful ways that kids say that mental health supports are happening is when they're able to talk about it peer-to-peer and peer-to-peer programs. So I would absolutely love to increase that for sure.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. Okay, Mr. Mofor, same question.
Yes, as students return back to in-person instruction, we've seen exponential growths and increases in suicide ideation, depression, anxiety, even homicidal ideation for that matter. And one of the best ways to curtail some of those issues we see are through very strong physical education programs and even after-school activities programs. So we have to partner with NGOs, nonprofit organizations, and other community leaders to institute very strong and adequate extracurricular activities in physical education to kind of essentially mitigate what we see there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Montoya.
Thank you. Kids need connection. They need hope. They need to have something that makes them feel good, that makes them feel like they want to invest in themselves. So I think that we definitely need to make sure as board members that the budget fully funds things like social workers, psychologists, school counselors, peer-to-peer programs, and other kind of what we would see as the kind of obvious direct supports. But we also want to make sure that we're getting education to our families, which includes elementary school students. Often our elementary school students and families are overlooked as maybe seeing that they don't have some of these challenges, but that's just not true. We're seeing these issues even at the elementary school level. And especially in our communities of color, as Native American and Mexican women and growing up in those cultures, it can be very challenging to seek services, to ask for help, or admit that there's even a challenge to begin with. So we need to overcome some of those cultural challenges. And then also making sure that our kids have after school and extracurricular options. And that includes fully funding things like gyms, auditoriums, and fields.
Thank you, Ms. Montoya.
They can't engage if they don't have them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moy.
Evening. So, we're answering how to hold MCPS accountable for mental health. Is that right?
Yes.
So I would say small group setting with partner resources. It's very difficult for MCPS to become psychologists or experts. All teachers are not geared for that. What I would like to do is work with more community partners like AA Success. We had kids get together. We talked about and how do we.
Mr. Moy, we can't hear you. Your connection is going in and out. Oh, did he drop? Okay, we will come back to that question for Mr. Moy. I'm sorry about that. We are up to Ms. Stewart.
Thank you. First of all, we need to work on our mental health experts in the school and the ratios, so psychologists, social workers, mental health professionals. We need to get kids more access. So the telehealth bill was just passed in Annapolis. So we need to work on those spaces so kids can get access to therapy. We can help to link them up to the access through nonprofits. There's a monthly providers call I'm on, and there's providers right there that want to get into schools to help kids. So let's work with those groups. And then there's simple things like lunch bunches to help connect kids back to peers and invite them into clubs so they can have a cohort. Some kids.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Thank you, Ms. Stewart. And we're going to go to Ms. Zimmerman, and then after Ms. Zimmerman, we're going to give Mr. Moy 15 seconds to finish up. Ms. Zimmerman?
Thank you. I believe one potential root of this problem is our short staffing in MCPS. There are classroom positions unfilled, paraeducator positions unfilled, and our counselor positions unfilled. But beyond that, MCPS does not meet the nationally recommended ratios for our school counselors, school psychologists, and social workers. So not only are we understaffed, but we're not putting in the correct allocations that are nationally recommended. A huge factor here is that students need to feel emotionally safe and supported, as well as having a physical presence of staff in the building. I believe some other potential solutions to this can be wellness days, making sure that students are aware of the excused mental health days that they're already afforded and encouraging them to take those. We can increase support with peer-to-peer groups that are then supported by educators.
Thank you, Ms.
Zimmerman.
Thank you. Okay, my colleague Annie is going to take the next question, but I will say I'm over here sweating, having to interrupt you all. We're so sorry, but you know, time is of the essence. Annie?
Thank you, Wylea. Our next topic is around school safety, and some of you sort of hinted at that, but it has been 25 years since the Columbine shooting, and we have learned a lot and implemented a few safeguards and procedures in our schools, yet we still have a lot of issues with safety. As a board member, what recommendations would you have to address school safety specifically without causing emotional and mental harm or fear in students? Ms. Diaz?
Yeah, so when I taught at Gaithersburg High School, one of the things I was very privileged to see was the relationship that the SROs built with all of the members of our community in the building. So our students, their teachers, administration, security. It was a wonderful thing to see the way they helped to prevent lots of situations that could have happened in the building because students trusted them. So this is the relationship that an SRO can build with students is very important. So we obviously, well, I think obviously we need to bring back SROs. We need to prioritize beefing up security, hiring more security staff so that our SROs can focus on building those relationships with students. And so, yes, that would be my plan.
Yes. Ms. Evans.
Sure. So currently there are community engagement officers in the schools. I think it's really important that there's training that's continuously provided to the CEOs where they have that cultural responsive training, where they are trauma informed. I think it has to be an ongoing conversation so that our students and parents are aware of what's going on. It really comes down to relationships. It'll be really important that our students are feeling connected to the adults in the building, but we're also providing safe measures with having security guards in there, making certain students have their IDs when they're swiping into the building, that we have cameras where they need to be so people can feel safe and secure, knowing that when they're in the school building, that everyone is thinking of their best interests, but a continuous.
Thank you, Ms. Evans.
Yes.
Ms. Harris.
Yes, I think first and foremost, the most important thing to make schools safe is to make sure that everybody in those buildings feels safe and welcome and valued being there. And we've been listening to our students. Our current student member of the board has done a great job crowdsourcing student ideas to make buildings safer, we're doing things like mandatory ID checks, door alarms, making sure we have a full complement of security cameras. We will be soon piloting weapon detection technology in our schools, but also we need to professionalize our school security teams to increase their salaries and make them 12-month employees, make sure they're getting good trauma-informed training and community training, and partner more closely with positive youth development.
Thank you. Mr. Hidayat.
I'm the only candidate that has actually worked with the SROs in Montgomery County. That program needs to come back, but come back as 1.0, the original program that Craig Rice supported, the one that you all saw the videos of Joe Lowry, that SRO that built wonderful relationships. The reason why those relationships worked is because they prevented things. They actually prevented students from joining the criminal justice system. I know this because I witnessed it. That's one thing, and we need to augment the State's Attorney's Truancy Prevention Program. I found there was a lot of value there because we mentored over 300 kids and we had great results.
Thank you, Mr. Hidayat. Ms. Kim?
Obviously, we need to be really super clear about what our expectations are. I think as our society changes, we have not caught up with our policies and practices to make sure that they're reflective of that. And did we take the time to actually clearly communicate what those expectations are and consequences are to our staff so they know how to and when and how to step in? And do we communicate that to our students so they know what those consequences are, and to families so that everyone's aware? But I'll also back up from that to say, like, I see this as an issue that's going on for a while, increasingly getting bigger, and we all kind of dance around the conversation. And what I really like for us to do is involve the students in the conversation. They're in the schools every single day, they're experiencing it, and we don't take the time, we don't linger with them long enough to say, hey,
Thank you, Ms.
kids.
Kim.
Yeah.
Mr. Mofor?
Yes, I've been very clear on this issue. We have to fundamentally reform our student code of conduct. The lack of substantive discipline emboldens insubordination here in our school system. Secondly, we have to reinstall our nationally recognized SRO paradigm. Maryland law requires a very strong security net here in every school system. I know we all saw the video of that student entering John F. Kennedy High School wielding a knife. Now that responsibility is on security guards who actually aren't equipped to handle such issues. We have to bring cops back into the school and give them the opportunity to neutralize active threats in the school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Montoya?
Thank you so much. I actually really wrestle with this one as a mom, as someone from communities where people have had, we have police brutality and really awful experiences with law enforcement. And a juvenile public defender, this is a really challenging issue for me because I also see, and we hear about it, it seems like every day we're hearing about some other act of violence in our schools. And so I think that kids need connection and consequences. I think there's a misnomer that it's one or the other, that's restorative justice or SROs. I think it's more nuanced than that. We need restorative practices, and we also need a presence of a strong security and law enforcement presence, but they need to be trained and properly vetted before we allow them to connect with our kids and have that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moy?
Good evening. So I think I'm on a more stable internet. So I think this is a coordinated effort. I would love to throw it back to the teachers and admin, ask the teachers and admin, do they feel safe? With the bomb threats, the vaping, the drugs, the no-go bathrooms, are they feeling safe? Kids pick up on how adults feel. So I recommend bringing back SROs before something catastrophic happens to our schools. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Stewart?
I think we need to work with our CEO program and have better coordination with school. I don't think we need to have a police officer in the school every day. We need to work on beefing up our school security officers. SB 1077 extended grants for that. So let's talk to principals, kids, parents, and see where we need more security. We can work on vape detectors, security cameras, the ID program. There's lots we can do, and we need to have a full needs assessment that includes the full school community, and the needs assessment should be delivered to the superintendent.
Thank
so
you,
we
Ms.
know how to
Stewart.
fund the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Zimmerman?
Thank you. I believe this question comes back to the data. We have very limited data on school resource officers to begin with, but the data that we do have does support a school to prison pipeline. Data that was collected by the National Association of School Resource Officers says that about 2/3 of those SROs see their main role as law enforcement. They don't see their main role in the school as building connections. They don't see their main role in the school as mentorship. I think our CEO program, our community engagement officer program, we need data on this as well. We need to be able to look and see what are the successes. We don't know enough if we should continue with it, if we need to reevaluate it, what needs to be added to it, or if it should be eliminated. Thank you.
Thank you. I turn it over again to my co-moderator, Wylea.
Thank you, Annie. Okay, so the next question, the academic achievement gap. All students showed a decline in achievement during the pandemic. Black and Brown students in particular continue to lag behind their white and Asian counterparts. As a BOE member, please tell us how you would address this disparity, support students that need additional help, and remain equitable in the approach. I'm happy to repeat that question. We have a lot of you to answer, but we're going to start with Ms. Diaz.
I think we need to prioritize making class sizes smaller. When you have a class of 30, and for example, a high school social studies class, an ESOL class that can be up to 25 students, it becomes increasingly difficult to meet all of your students' needs. And so the ones who end up lagging behind, it just becomes, the workload just mounds, and it's nearly impossible. So we need to prioritize smaller class sizes. We need to give teachers more time to plan and according to each student's needs in the classroom. Right now, teachers are overloaded with paperwork and they don't feel safe in the classroom. I have a teacher friend who told me about how he was assaulted. I have another friend who told me about how she was nearly attacked by knife point. So we don't know about everything that's happening in the building.
Thank you, Ms. Diaz. Ms. Diaz, I have a point of clarification there. So we're talking about, the question was about the achievement gap, and you alluded to safety in the building. Are you
what I'm saying is that
if you could let me finish asking the question, I'm sorry for interrupting you. So are you saying that those two things are aligned, or can you give a little bit of context, please, with that 15 seconds?
Yes, what I'm saying is that the teacher, when you can't concentrate on delivering classroom instruction because you don't know if you're safe in the classroom, then it becomes difficult to deliver the kind of content and instruction that the students need. When everyone feels safe, teachers and students, then the achievement gap can be closed, right? So that's the connection that I'm trying to make. This idea that there's not enough data to support SROs is false.
Thank you, Ms. Diaz.
Thank you.
And again, I just want to remind everybody, we're not doing direct rebuttals, but we will have, points of clarification sometimes. Okay, so I'm going to repeat the question since we had a break there. All students showed a decline in achievement during the pandemic. Black and Brown students in particular continue to lag behind their white and Asian counterparts. As a BOE member, please tell us how you would address this disparity, support students that need additional help, and remain equitable in the approach. Ms. Evans?
Yes, so I first want to start off by saying the opportunity gap is something that we've been tackling for quite some time, not just in Montgomery County, but just across the US. One way that I do believe, because my leadership came into play during this time, the MCPS put into place the equity accountability model, where the data for students was being disaggregated by race and poverty. That was not happening anywhere. COVID hit and did a little setback. But during that time, we also switched to structured literacy, and we have a new curriculum, Amplified Core Knowledge. So I am very optimistic about what is going to take place with having rich content that is developmentally appropriate for our students.
Thank you, Ms. Evans.
In their education. Thank you.
Ms. Harris, same question.
Yeah. Focusing in tightly on math and literacy, we have made a tremendous investment in structured literacy and the science of reading, rolling it out throughout all of our elementary schools, and with excellent professional development, and we're already seeing gains in that work. We need to also continue the work that we've started with on math content coaching and job embedded coaching with our math specialists going into our schools, especially our schools where our outcome data is most challenging, and they are really focusing in on connecting those teachers to the content and connecting the teachers to their students so they can truly differentiate. That work is also seeing gains. We also need to focus in our work on our transition years, grades 3, 6, and 9, to make sure we are seeing the work.
Thank you, Ms.
The
Harris.
way it needs to.
Thank you. Ms. Hidayat, same question.
We closed the achievement gap when we actually listened to the people being affected by it most. The Black and Brown Coalition for Educational Equity and Excellence already gave recommendations to the school board, and it's just not they're not giving it its due attention. It's all about literacy, and you have a very short time to do this. It's between kindergarten, hopefully pre-K with the new blueprint, but from pre-K to about fourth or fifth grade, that's the focus that we need to focus on, because once they develop those literacy skills, academics will be easier. But if they don't develop it at that time, and that's where we need to put our money and resources, they're going to fumble and they're going to have difficulties from there on in. So my focus would be focus on pre-K through fifth grade and focus on literacy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hidayat. Ms. Kim?
We absolutely need high quality curriculum of what our children are learning from, and that is not high quality quite just yet at MCPS. We have a lot more work to do. And then we need to provide research-based supported programs, such as like doing it with Fidelity, high impact tutoring programs where 3 to 4 kids are spending chunks of time together one-on-one with an adult on what they need specifically. And that shouldn't happen just after school. That should happen during the school day. And specifically our teachers and leaders, hopefully also be inclusive and diverse, are giving the time and space to be able to figure out a systematic intervention plan and systematic enrichment plan for our students so that they can be exactly where they need to be.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mofor.
Students need personalized learning mechanisms and extended learning opportunities. The biggest driver to the school to prison pipeline is not an officer like Officer Maverick in schools, is the lack of educational competence. 85% of students that interface with the juvenile justice system are functionally illiterate. That's nuanced data for you. We have to focus on these things. We don't focus on educational competency here in MCPS. What's prioritized is political ideology, and that's something that will end under my leadership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mofor, can you expand a little bit on what you mean by that would end on your leadership?
Yes.
What do you think? Let me just finish real quick.
In 2023, the Board of Education spent over $1 million.
Mr. Mofor, I need you to stop for a second.
That can be instituted on extracurricular activities. And
Mr. Mofor, that's not going to work.
Why is it not going to work?
What's not going to work is you talking over Mr. Mofor, because we're trying to give everybody the
trying
same.
to get clarification.
So when we're just trying to get clarification, we're not trying to be combative at all. Okay, so I really do want you want your answer heard. And if you could move back a little bit because you're up top in the screen, we're trying to make sure we can see you. So could you, and it's only 15 seconds so that we can hear you, can you expand on a little bit? And you said that would change under your watch.
In 2023, the Board of Education spent over $1 million litigating a case on a very unpopular inclusive curriculum, shoving and ramming ideology down the throats of parents and students. We do not prioritize educational competence amongst students, specifically Black men here in our education system. As a board member, I will not prioritize inclusive curriculums. I will not prioritize political ideology. I will prioritize educational competence in math and English. Is that a fair enough clarification, or should I expound?
Yes. No, that's
good enough, Mr. Mofor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for clarifying.
Mr. Moy, do you need me to repeat the question, Mr. Moy?
No, thank you.
Okay.
So very quickly here, I would set policy to correct the following. Attendance, you can't improve if you're not in school. Remove distractions. Remove cell phones, smaller class sizes, give the teacher a manageable class to oversee. Make sure they have planning periods. Make sure, like Wylea Elementary, we can incorporate parents into mentoring programs. Those are things that I would like to see, and it's feasible, and we can close that achievement gap. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Moy. Ms. Stewart.
First, we need to start really at birth. So offering services to families, pre-K, and then focusing on third grade literacy, more professional development for delivering math content, quality tutoring using private-public partnerships, fully implementing community schools. This is a tool we need to activate. Expanding CTE and magnet programs, and we need to work on developing MOUs so that MCPS can take full advantage of available grants. And I agree with the Black and Brown Coalition's call for an early warning system and learning plans for children who fall below grade level. So it's a package of things that we need to do and that we're starting, but we can do better.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you. Ms. Zimmerman.
Thank you. As a current classroom teacher, I have experience with this in my daily life. And one thing that we discuss in the classroom is that we need to make sure that we are giving high quality first instruction to all of our students before we start to move into the next tier of support for our students. And I can tell you that the shift to structured literacy has not fully begun. Our main literacy curriculum is still balanced literacy, and data does not support us using balanced literacy, and data does not support that it's best for kids. It speaks to that we need a teacher on the Board of Education who can speak to the actual logistics of the curriculums that come before us and can speak to their actual implementation into a classroom and what that's going to look like for the students, what that's going to look like for the educators, and make sure that our students can be getting the best possible education based on the curriculums that we offer them.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you, Ms.
Zimmerman. Ms. Montoya.
Thank you so much. I'm a Head Start graduate, and that was in California. So that lets us know that this achievement gap for Black and Brown students has been going on across the nation for at least 40 years. As a mom of elementary school students, I see the challenges that our teachers are facing with having so many students, even if they're within class limits. The lack of staffing, the lack of support, that all affects the type of instruction and the quality of instruction that our kids can get. So if elected, I will work really hard to make sure that our budget supports expansion of universal pre-K, to make sure that our kids get off to a strong start, to make sure that we fully staff our schools so that our kids can get the attention that they need, and to continue to support programs like WIN, which provide children with 30 minutes 4 times a week in similarly situated groups where they can catch up or receive enrichment if they need to push forward and excel because they're doing well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on to our next question. We're going to turn it over and talk a little bit about community partnerships. So, let's get the question together. There are considerable nonprofit and for-profit educational partners in the community that can be a benefit to MCPS students and families. Some of those businesses have shared the challenges in getting contracts or MOU agreements with the school system. How can procurement and partnership opportunities be maximized to extend the reach of the school system? Do you have experience with establishing and nurturing partnerships? If so, please share. I'll start with Ms. Diaz.
Yeah, so when I was at Gaithersburg High School, I had the opportunity to work with the city of Gaithersburg to help teenage moms graduate because they were facing, and they were, well, to help them graduate, and they were, they had to meet a certain grade standard, and they had to meet certain attendance standards for both the program and like attendance at school. That program, unfortunately, is being shut down. So these community partnerships with MCPS and with other community community organizations, they can be tenuous at best. So we need to prioritize them, like programs like Identity. Thank you.
Ms. Evans?
Sure. I believe education is everyone's business, so I think it is really important that we can bring into the fold as many community partners as possible. One thing that the procurement office can do a better job of is holding or hosting events where various community partners can come and learn and understand what the process looks like. That way they're not at a disadvantage when they're trying to apply for to submit a proposal. I would also say that I've had a lot of experience working on a lot of different organizations. One that comes to mind is College Tracks. They have a career and college focus in trying to help our students that need additional support to get to college and also stay and have that mentorship throughout. So thank you for that question.
Thank you. Ms. Harris.
Yeah, partnerships are essential to providing our students a robust opportunity to explore their interests and to expand the work that they're doing in the classroom. I definitely have experience creating partnerships. I was a medical science teacher at Thomas Edison High School, and in that capacity, created new partnerships with clinical partners so that my students could get that hands-on medical training that they needed to move forward in their career goals, and also created a brand new opportunity for our students who had earned their CMA licenses to do a clinical internship. But I also know that there are significant workflow issues within MCPS that make us sometimes not a great partner. The way the methods and timeline it takes for us to approve MOUs and procurement and contracts is too long.
Thank you, Ms.
They're
Harris.
instigating a workflow study.
Thank you. Mr. Hidayat?
So as I mentioned earlier in my intro that I was a police officer, but I was a special kind of police officer. I was the community service officer. So I had to work with nonprofits, civic associations, homeowners associations. I had to work with a lot of outside the police department partners. One of the ones I worked with directly was Linkages to Learning. I thought they provided a great service. I told them I needed help. They said, "What do you need help with?" I told them what I needed help with, and they collaborated so well with me to achieve the goal that we were trying to do. So as far as that equity issue in the procurement process, focus groups. We need to have focus groups and tell them exactly what the Black and Brown Coalition for Educational Equity and Excellence is asking for. And so you narrowed the focus, and then you set benchmarks. You say, hey, listen, this is what we need, and these are the criteria in which we need the
Thank you,
service
Mr.
delivered.
Hidayat. Thank you. Ms. Kim.
Yep, partnerships. Schools are part of the community. Community is part of the schools. And one of the things I was most excited to do is to make sure that every single high school that we were working with to make some drastic redesign all of our high schools, we were able to put a communities and schools partnership, because people need to learn and have structures and systems to really align and deepen that relationship and figure out how to adjust and work together. And so I would support all of our schools having a communities and schools office program, people a resource to it, so that we can think about the assets of our communities that are very unique, as well as think about what gaps need to be additionally brought in to make supports.
Thank you. Mr. Mofor.
We have to appropriate more money on itemized budgeted line items such as contractual services, and appropriate those funds to nonprofit organizations such as the Living Aid Group that can help with literacy at the elementary school level. And we also have to appropriate additional funding to nonprofit organizations such as the 4E Club that's ran by Mr. Hooks up there in Up County, Germantown, to provide kids with extracurricular activities after school. That's something that we have to prioritize, and we really haven't prioritized much of that in the previous administration.
Thank you. Ms. Montoya.
Thank you so much. From the work that I do as a small business advisor and nonprofit advisor, where I connect entities with each other so that they can collaborate and mutually advance, to my work in the PTA, where I work with various organizations, including our neighborhood association, to try to make sure that our students and staff have the resources and items that they need so that they can get the education that they deserve. I also am just the neighbor that people call. Hey, Rita, I have a family that needs a car seat. I have a family that recently arrived. They came with one set of clothes. Can you reach out to your network? Can you see what you can find? Food drives, clothing drives, there's a fire, we're doing something. So I'm just kind of a resourceful person. I think that community partnerships are key, especially when we have such a large district like MCPS, and that can really benefit our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moy?
Thank you. I am absolutely good at community bridges, or working with the community. Speaking of community bridges, I happen to speak with the executive director this afternoon. They provide awesome amount of mentorship with Black and brown girls in multiple schools in MCPS. I love the work with NIH or AA Success or other nonprofits because they're more effective. They're transparent. They are more cost effective. They don't use the same amount of overhead in order to deliver the service. So I would highly recommend we work with nonprofits, including in the mental health sphere. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stewart?
Interesting you asked this question, so I mentioned MOUs in my last answer. We need to streamline the process. I would like to have an audit done to see how we can do that. It takes way too long to, sometimes you hear about a grant and it's too late. So we also, as far as my experience, I've worked with the Healthcare Initiative Foundation. I've been on, at first weekly, now monthly calls. We all work together. For MCCPTA, we did health fairs and we worked with organizations to do that. Also, during the blueprint advocacy, I worked with linkages, MCEA, identity, NAACP, and we all came together to work towards getting the blueprint passed.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart.
Thank you.
Ms. Zimmerman?
Thank you. I believe that MCPS does not connect with our community enough. At a previous district, I taught an English learning development course. And one of the things that we did is we nearly every day took the students to a different local business that was also immigrant owned, and the owner was multilingual. The students got to interview the business owner, they got to interact with different people in the community, and they also got to write a brochure to talk about how amazing this business owner and this community business was. And I believe programs like this can really help connect our students and our community together. I believe we also need to increase our community schools. It's in the blueprint for Maryland's future, and it's a great way to connect students in our communities. My community school that I work at, we currently partner with I Support the Girls. That helps.
Thank you, Ms. Zimmerman.
Who menstruate.
Forgot to give you the little finger. Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Wylea now.
Thank you.
I think we're only going to have an opportunity to do one more question each.
Oh, okay.
Ms.
Okay. Okay.
Ms. Chase, so you may want to pick.
Yeah, yes. Well, so I'm gonna ask y'all about the anti-racist audit. Okay, so there is a question at the end of this. So as you all know, MCPS contracted with a company who conducted an anti-racist audit of our school system, and the findings were no surprise to many as it relates to the inequities in our education system that negatively impact our students, all of our students, especially the most marginalized, our Black and Brown communities. How do you plan to hold MCPS accountable for the implementation with fidelity of the findings of the audit, both at the local school level and system-wide? That's one question. Do you think that parents, caregivers, students, teachers, that the engagement with those communities is important in this work? So that first question we'll ask for an answer from Ms. Diaz.
Sorry, can you repeat that last part of the question?
Sure can.
I couldn't write it all down.
Okay, sure. And I'll try to speak a little more slowly. How do you plan to hold MCPS accountable for the implementation with fidelity of the findings of the anti-racist audit, both at the school level and system-wide? And do you think that community engagement is important in this work?
Yeah, so I definitely believe that community engagement is deeply important. That's part of one of my platforms is parental involvement and community revitalization. We need our parents to feel, or to know, not even just to feel, to know that they are important in putting together curriculum, in having a say in security matters in the school building. It can't just be something that's autocratically imposed by MCPS, which is what we're experiencing. So I believe that community engagement is critical to tackling the findings in the anti-racist audit. And so at the school level, I would encourage principals to meet regularly with community members. I would also, as a board member, host open forums and visit schools on a regular basis. So this would be that I would prioritize that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
Yes, good question. So one of the ways is progress monitoring. There was a lack of coherence here in the school system. And so having a regular conversation at the board table is very important so that we know how well students are doing. And in the event that what we're doing is not working, that we can course correct. It's important that our students are able to learn as they go to the next level, but it also it absolutely involves our community. Community engagement is very important to get that feedback from parents, what they're hearing and what they know around their students' learning. If they have any questions, if there's additional things that we need to do to make certain that they understand the work that's coming home and how their students are learning. So I'll wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Ms. Harris.
I think community engagement is the way we hold MCPS accountable to this important work. You know, we cannot underestimate the way that we need to be engaged with our families and our students in particular with every problem solving, policy making, and priority setting conversation. And in every initiative that we roll out, we have to be on the ground with the staff, with the students every day to understand, is it working? Is it not? What is the impact on you? And I think that when we work with our community around what they see happening in schools and make sure there is a clear and transparent and safe way for them to share that feedback back and forth, that is the only way to hold the system accountable to our ambitious goals, to be not just an anti-racist, but an anti-bias school system.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Ms. Hidayat?
Well, as the community service officer for the Montgomery County Police Department, I would take it one step even further and say community engagement is the only way to ensure that the data that was collected is implemented. And here's the thing, I agree with Shebra Evans. You should have monthly meetings about this. Where are we? Where did we say we are? Where are we now? And do we need to course correct? So I agree with everything that Shebra said and the other candidates as well. But community engagement is the only way to really get a grip as to what is going on and how do we address it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kim?
Agreed, could not agree more. I think greater community engagement will lead to greater community understanding, which will then get us to greater community action so that we can actually move the data points on this together. On the point of accountability, I think this is one of the things I'm running for, that I think that the body to hold people accountable is the school board. We're accountable, set the priorities. Does this matter? 2, how does that show in how we resourced it with our budget and how we resource it with our people? And then 3rd, it is the board's job to support and hold accountable the superintendent to achieving those priorities through regular check-ins and accountability checks, as well as support checks and understanding checks. That is both on community engagement as well as
Kim.
Thanks, Ms. Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Mofor?
I mean, we all seem to say that we want more community engagement, but when stakeholders engage and voice their concerns, they're turned down in every step. But I digress. I think one of the best ways to implement some of the findings from that anti-racist audit is to actually focus on schools from disenfranchised communities to see if those students are actually progressing educationally, whether it's from English language arts, math, etc. And also see if we can put and implement a deterrence to the overdiagnosis of young African-American males and other young African-American students within the system that are heavily diagnosed with ADHD, et cetera, goes on, and unfortunately put on pills like Ritalin, et cetera. So those are things that we can implement to kind of mitigate the racism that we may or may not see in our schools.
Thank you, Mr. Mofor.
Thank you, Mr. Mofor. Ms. Montoya?
Thank you so much. Community engagement is key. You know, these check-ins everyone keeps referencing, those are absolutely important, whether we're looking at the school level, so looking at the specific school population itself, the clusters, as well as the district, and doing those doing those consistently across the board, right? We can't compare things if everyone isn't doing it the same way in terms of their data monitoring and their progress monitoring. But that also includes checking in with parents and students and staff. That provides that system of checks and balances to make sure that what we're really doing is asking questions, and that's what the board needs to do. We need to make sure that we're asking the right questions, we're requesting more information when we feel like we don't have the answers, and sometimes we may not be in a position to make a decision because we feel like we need to revisit it after receiving more information. And if elected, I won't be afraid to do that, to ask those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Montoya. Ms. Nemoy.
Thank you. If elected, I hold myself accountable because you can't pass accountability off to MCPS. They're responsible, but I gotta be accountable. I'm the guy who you're gonna go after if I don't deliver. It's a combination of funding, equitable learning opportunities, a culture, not understanding the culture, and a lack of a systematic approach. These are things that I'm going to try to fix. Being coherent. Without being coherent, who can follow your plan? I had a chance to read the action plan, and I'm going to use it to complete my Leadership Montgomery project on racist, if there's any racism or what I feel is racism in the system.
Thank you, Mr. Moy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moy. Ms. Stewart.
I'll tackle engagement first. I think there's a theme here. It's key. We cannot know what is going on the ground in our schools without engaging our families, students, staff. I believe part of making sure the school culture is healthy is having input from the full community. Shared leadership is part of the community school model. I'm a strong believer in that. I don't think we've done too much there at MCPS, so let's work on shared leadership. As far as the system, we need to work on that equity accountability model. The dashboard, I went to go look at it, was last updated in 2022, and that's kind of things I look at. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Stewart. And Ms. Zimmerman.
Thank you. I believe that just saying that we're anti-racist is not enough. We need to be consistently taking action. I personally have gone through the anti-bias training that MCPS has put forth. In fact, I completed one of the programs on Monday, and I can tell you that this is not the way that we educators would teach our students. So I'm not sure why that's the way that we choose to educate our educators. I think part of this process is that we need to be making connections with the program and making the program about connections. And part of that is community engagement. I would love to partner with programs like the Minority Scholars Program, and that'll make sure that our trainings are showing the lived experiences of our students. Beyond that, the board itself needs to go through.
Ms. Zimmerman. Okay. Our final question, we can't leave here without talking about college and career readiness. The Blueprint for Maryland's Future provides guidance on expected outcomes in education over the next decade. Everyone agrees that all students should be ready for college and/or career by graduation. Describe any changes you believe are necessary to ensure all students graduate from high school with the tools they need to be successful for the next stage of their academic career, or if they choose to enter the workforce. Very important question. As a higher ed official or administrator, I'm seeing, and I want to hear your thoughts. Ms. Diaz.
Yeah, so I think that we should expand our magnet programs, and I think that we should offer more vocational programs. And when I was at Gaithersburg High School, they had the cosmetology program and they had auto body, which I thought that was great. They also had the business program, but my daughter, who goes to Quince Orchard, who wanted to participate in the business program at Gaithersburg, wasn't able to do so because there wasn't busing so that she could access Gaithersburg campus during the school day. So there needs to be a way that we can either offer business programs in other schools, or just expand our magnet programs and different houses like that, like the global ecology or humanities program, IB programs. Those are some of the things that we've done. I also think that this is, I think that where our students who are athletes, we should give them that credit for PE so that they can open up their schedule and like invest more time in their academics
Thank you,
or in
Ms. Diaz.
artistic endeavors. Those are some ideas that I have.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
Sure. Our students are so smart and so self-aware. I think it will be really important that we help them to really dig deep into what they're passionate about and what their skill sets are. And doing that at the elementary age level will help that to stick and stay with them as they go through middle school and high school, and allow them to be able to choose the career pathway. So they know that early on, and we can begin to show them what that looks like through mentors. That'll be really great. We have a great partnership with WorkSource Montgomery. We have a lot of great work going on in the county with our partners that are trying to ensure that in addition to what the school system is doing, that they can also help develop and mentor and encourage and support our students.
Thank you. Ms. Harris?
45 seconds is nowhere near enough to go into the deep dive that I've done on this issue as a former CTE teacher in this system. So I'm going to go high level. The Maryland blueprint, the blueprint for Maryland's future is a great visionary look at where we need to be and what we need to do to get there. But Maryland's public education policy is mired in the 1950s. We need to go forward to the State Board of Education and MSTE with the question, for every single thing you force a student to do to get a Maryland high school diploma, does it matter? Why do we make them do it? And what can we do to make our education system relevant to 21st century students? We haven't done it. We need to do it. We need to reform the way we need to reform the way we provide our students opportunity. And that's what we need to do.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Dr. Hidayat?
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to ask you to repeat the question because based on all the answers, it confused me what the original question was.
Of course, of
Thank you.
course. The question is about the blueprint.
Okay.
The blueprint for Maryland's future
Mm-hmm.
provides a guidance on expected outcomes in education over the next decade. Everyone agrees that all students should be ready for college and/or career by graduation.
Right.
Describe any changes you believe are necessary to ensure all students graduate from high school with the tools they need to be successful for the next stage of their academic career, and we're talking academic career, or if they choose to enter the workforce.
So when I read the blueprint, and it has good, ambitious goals. Okay, those 5 pillars. I agree. All of them. Mostly, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's just centered around teachers, and that's an important part. However, I think it's top heavy, and I don't think it addresses the fundamental issue. If you want to have students be prepared for college and the workforce with a high school diploma, you have to hold them back if they haven't earned their grade at that level. So if you're in 7th grade or 8th grade and you didn't pass, you go to summer school and you repeat the classes that you were not successful in. What has happened is that we are passing people who shouldn't be passing, and then they're ill-equipped to deal with getting into college. We need to stop that charade. We need to actually hold students accountable to the standard that we have decided for them already. So yes, thank you.
Ms. Kim?
If you add up the per pupil expenditure for all of our students from, when they start kindergarten all the way to the time that they're leaving us in 12th grade, the amount of money we're putting into their experience should equal their readiness for college and career, whatever they choose next after this K-12 experience. And I think that is the thing. And why it does not happen right now is because absolutely we need to redesign the school day experience. I hear teachers and educators and principals always say we don't have enough time for X, Y, or Z. The truth of the matter is we have them all day long, but we are mired in the things that we have to do or we're beholden to, and it is time to refresh. We need to redesign because they need to have a different experience to get to those outcomes, and expanding their passions is definitely the way to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Mofor.
Pillar 3 of Kerwin's recommendation of Maryland's Blueprint of the Future essentially articulates the prioritization of college and career readiness. And one way we can kind of institute those ideas or agendas is actually expanding career and technical education to give kids palpable experience to prepare them for the global economy that we're in. After we've seen in 1994, et cetera, with NAFTA, that piece of legislation, and more free trade agreements, it's now a global economy, and our kids cannot compete in that economy. So we have to give them very strong, tangible teaching curriculums within our education system to meet that pillar 3 of Kerwin's essential recommendation for our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mofor. Ms. Montoya.
Thanks so much. So I do think that there's definitely a conversation potentially to be had about how we define things like achievement and readiness. We know that all students, all people don't perform the same. I'm not great at standardized tests, so I can attest to that. But I'm a great lawyer. So I do think there's something to say there, but we also want to look at, these are the standards that we have. These are the proficiency rates that we need to meet. And so we want to make sure our students meet them. So passing students along when they might not have met those rates, we want to make sure instead that they get the intensive services they need. Magnets, CTE, internships more widely available, study programs for things like the ACT and SAT, but also we need to make sure that our kids know that they can achieve. My parents had children in high school. I'm their second child and I have a younger brother. And every single day, my parents let us know
Ms. Montoya.
and we could do it, and we can let our kids know that too. Thank you.
Mr. Moy.
Thanks. My platform is based on getting all kids career or college ready. I recently spoke to Ike Leggett, who helped create the blueprint, and he wants all kids to be done by 10th grade. My goal is to connect kids with careers, let them see what it's like and let them choose, and then meet that demand at MCPS. I've recently had a chance to meet kids at the finance park. Because of all the different careers that were presented, they were able to say, oh, I want to hear more about this. I told them about the Naval Academy and how I recruit for the Naval Academy for Richard Montgomery and Rockville High. So see you on the campaign trail. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Stewart?
The blueprint has the college and career readiness standard. I did testify to try to make that a little more flexible because there's certain career tracks, CTE certificates. I don't want to cut off kids' opportunity if it takes them a little longer to master algebra, for instance. So hopefully we can look at that flexibility, but also we need equity and access. So there's so many times I've seen where a math teacher was not available and there was a long-term sub that did not have that professional math teaching experience. So let's work on equity and access.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart.
Thank you.
Ms. Zimmerman.
Thank you. I also want to speak to our college and I also want to speak to our CTE programs and increasing those. Part of the problem is that oftentimes these programs are required to be self-funded, and that means that then it's difficult for these programs to actually begin, and then they're not able to thrive because they are required to be self-funded. I think that we need to be actually investing in these programs to make sure that they can continue. Part of the blueprint also asks us to make sure that all of our curriculums and our standards pre-K to 12 are aligned with this college and career readiness standard. So I think that we need to make sure that our programs, our magnet programs and our other diverse learning programs are expanded all the way down even to the elementary level, thinking about the primary years program and IB, things like that.
Ms. Zimmerman.
Thank you.
Okay. That was great. We're now going to give you, we're going to wrap it up because we are way past time. So we'll give you, want you to think about your closing remarks, and we'll give you each a minute to give closing remarks. Ms. Chase, do you want to say anything?
I don't want to take away from their time. We'll start with you, Ms. Diaz.
Yes, I think one of the things we were discussing last night with the number of forums that the candidates are attending, this is like unprecedented, the amount of forums that we're attending. And the reason why that is because I think many people recognize that we are at a critical juncture right now with MCPS. We have to make a move away from the status quo if we want to see any significant changes within our school system. We talk about the anti-racist audit, we talk about equity, we talk about inclusion, we talk about all these things, but yet we continue with MCEA candidates, we continue with incumbents and the status quo. That needs to change. That's why I'm running, because I am an independent voice who will stand for students, parents, families, and the rest of the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that was a great kickoff, Ms. Diaz. Ms. Evans, you are next.
Yeah. My time on the board has allowed me to serve in roles through the vote of confidence from my colleagues as the president twice, as the vice president twice. At the state level, I'm currently the treasurer, and I have co-authored with colleagues across the state of Maryland a school board workbook leading for school board governance through equity. I have been able to build relationships not only at the local level, but the state and federal level as well. It will take relationships, it will take hard work and dedication to continue moving the system forward. Of course, we have done great things, and we have faced challenges, but I am up for the task, and I'm asking for your vote of confidence on May the 14th to vote me, Shebra Evans, for District 4 position. And also early voting begins May 2nd through May 9th. Thank you for hosting this forum. It's been very great.
Thank you. Ms. Harris?
I'm a nurse, I'm a lawyer, I'm a former teacher in the system, I'm a parent of an MCPS graduate, and I'm a pragmatic problem solver who sees opportunity everywhere. I know that the system has problems, but I also see really great work happening. And I completely believe, and anybody who's ever worked with me knows this is true, that you can't make decisions about people without people. And I deeply am committed to continuing the work to ensure that our communities and our customers, particularly our students, are front and center, bringing their wisdom and their lived experience of our school system into every priority setting, policy making, and problem solving conversation. Because if we are not listening to our customers, we cannot make the best decision for the school system. And that is what you will get from me.
Thank you. I love how everybody's sticking to time.
All right, Mr. Hidayat.
One of the biggest issues as to the reason why I ran is because actually nobody's listening at the Board of Education. That's the main problem, whether it be parents, whether it be students. I mean, you heard Sami Saeed say, you guys are dragging your feet on these security measures. What do I bring to the table? I'd be the first, not the first, but I would be the only candidate who's a father on the board that brings a father's perspective. I think kids need to see that. I think they need to see the diversity of having a father on the board making some decisions as well and look up to us. Look, the Black and Brown Coalition for Educational Equity and Excellence did all the legwork. They did the meat and the potatoes of the legwork that needs to be done to close this achievement gap. We just have to implement it and make sure it's held, the Board of Education is held accountable to making sure that those policies exist and they're enforced. I go back to my primary thing is let's focus on literacy at early childhood development. If we fix that one problem, I think we will close that achievement gap.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Kim.
Well, I think all of our children deserve to attend schools where they're really pushed to be their best and held to high expectations and supported based on their individual needs, where they know that people are rooting for them and they know that they matter because of the relationships of both peers and adults and what they see reflected in their communities, no matter their race, religion, gender, economic status. And to the last topic we just talked about, we absolutely have biases within our system. And we need to work actively to take care of them because they should be, all of our students should be able to hold up their head high, no matter what choice they make right now when they leave of college or career, because all of those choices are good choices. And we need to remove some of those biases as well as all the other biases we talked about. I believe this is achievable. I think it's doable. It must be done. It requires strong leadership and vision experience, and I have that. And I'm a mom of 2 kids in the system, and I want to make sure that it gets better for them and all of our kids now. Melissa from Montgomery.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. Mr. Mofor?
Yes, I preach a lot about humility and virtue. So I want to be a little bit more candid and go off script. And I want to take this time out to apologize to the moderators, Ms. Chase and Ms. Foster. I want you guys to understand that I was looking forward to this forum specifically with the Black and Brown Coalition, because that's actually why I ran for Board of Ed, is to articulate and advocate on behalf of students from said communities. I've dedicated the last 4 to 5 years of my life after college to equip myself to do so in a substantive way. So I want you guys to understand my passion and the energy is in no formal form of disrespect, but just wanting to advocate for my community. And I was really looking forward to this one. So I hope you guys accept my apology there. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Absolutely. Excuse me,
Apology
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Mofor. No need to apologize, but
No,
totally
yeah.
appreciate it. And this is a stressful sort of thing, you know, really deep questions, really deep answers in just a few seconds is understandable. So, but thank you for your apology.
Thank you.
Ms. Montoya.
Thank you so much. My children are 8 and 9. We're in 2nd and 4th grade. So we have a long road to go in MCPS, like many of you. I recognize many of the names that are in attendance here today. I've seen you at PTA meetings, engaged with you on PTA, long MCC PTA threads and the like. And I know that we're all here because we care about our kids. That's actually why I joined the PTA, because I knew that if I wanted to know what was going on in our kids' schools, that I had to get in there and do the work. I've been doing what people would phrase as equity work for my entire academic and professional career, whether it's in various business industries, with my own children in education, for myself and my communities as part of various identity associations and student groups. And I bring that same commitment and unwavering passion to the Board of Education. I will be there to fight for you and for our communities because I'm already doing the work. Montoya for MCPS. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Montoya. Mr. Moy.
Okay, thank you. Well, good evening, voters. I hope my views make sense and closely aligned with yours. I'm always willing to listen and learn. I've intentionally sought out experiences and skills to prepare me to serve on the Board of Ed. I work closely with K-5 children through the Cub Scouts, to include my own 2 kids, a 9-year-old Alex and 11-year-old Autumn. I have seen the great synergy between parents, active parents, and teachers on the PTA. I've gained experience improving multiple federal agencies using Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. I hope to bring that here. I've honed my leadership and collaboration skills as a veteran. These parts come together to make Ricky Moy. Please vote for me so that I may bring my decades of experience and talent to work for you and to bring Moy's hierarchy of education, which
Thank you, Mr.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moy. Ms. Stewart.
Thank you so much for having this forum. All the questions were extremely important. I had a hard time keeping to the 45 seconds. Part of it is because I have so much experience in advocating for equity in our system. I saw it as a mom going through the Einstein cluster and then having another kid go through the magnet program over to Richard Montgomery. And I've seen some of the differences. And I really want to tackle these equity issues head on. And I have the experience. I've worked with legislators. I've worked with PTAs from all over the county. And we have these issues actually all over the county. But really, I just want to bring my experience. My kid got an excellent education at MCPS and competes on the world stage. I want that for every kid. And it shouldn't take a mom going into school over and over to get it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Zimmerman.
Thank you. My biggest strength is that I am currently a classroom teacher in Montgomery County Public Schools. And I care about my students so deeply that I'm willing to leave the classroom and take on a position to advocate for them and their future. These ideas and these subjects that we've talked about tonight, they aren't just theoretical or numbers to me. They are my lived experiences. And I believe that the people closest to the teaching and learning should be making the decisions about the teaching and learning. Teachers' working environment is our students' learning environment. Voting for me will ensure that we have someone on the Board of Education that knows what is actually happening in the classroom day to day, because they have lived it and they've lived it recently. I hope you'll join me at zimmermanforboe.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we want to thank you all for being here, and our colleague, Ms. Luckett, is going to close us out. But before she does that, we have just one fun question, but we want you all to shout your answers out, or just unmute yourself and shout your answer out, okay? So the question is, are you tuning into the Olympics happening this summer in Paris? And if so, what events will you be following? So unmute yourself and just say what event you're going to be following.
Yes, swimming.
I can get my kid.
Totally swimming.
Track.
Okay, awesome. Did the
Basketball,
audience
basketball.
unmute yourselves too and say which one?
Gymnastics.
Gymnastics and track.
Track and field.
Gymnastics and track.
Track and swimming.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us. And it warmed my heart to hear so many of you shouting out some of our really awesome nonprofit partners in this county doing the work of educational equity, such as college tracks, number of different organizations, identity, linkages to learning. Thank you so much for that. Please keep up that recognition and that work to support those
480 Club.
organizations.
Mr. Mofor talked about that club that I work with.
Absolutely. Mr. Hooks, he's awesome. So thank you so much. Pamela?
Thank you, Wylea. As we close, I want to thank each of our candidates for joining us, along with our sponsor and our moderators, Kim Jones from the Montgomery County Black Collective, Wylea Chase from the Black and Brown Coalition for Educational Equity and Excellence, and Annie Foster Ahmed from the Potomac Valley Alumnae Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Our children are indeed our future and deserve only the best. Sadly, they face a chaotic world on a daily basis. In addition, our Black and Brown children face a unique set of challenges: providing the highest quality education, protecting their physical and mental health, ensuring that they feel safe at school, and helping all our children build solid and sustainable futures must be a priority. Key to this is family and community engagement. We've heard a lot of ideas this evening, and they all sound great until you have to implement them in a high-pressure situation. The individuals that we elect to these positions must be experienced, balanced, culturally competent, and understand that one size does not fit all. This is one of the most important races of our election cycle. We encourage everyone to vote and make your voice and the voices of our children heard. Again, we want to remind our viewers to visit 777vote.org to register to vote. And for background information on our candidates, visit vote411.org/ballot or elections.maryland.gov. Early voting is May 2nd through the 9th, and Election Day is May 14th. My name is Pamela Luckett with the Montgomery County Alumnae Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Again, on behalf of our sponsor, our moderators, and our candidates, thank you for joining us, and good night.